in the Middle East. Hi, everyone. Mike Pace here. Thanks again for joining us. It is a new hour here on Live Now from Fox, just past 4 p.m. Eastern. We are 1 p.m. out on the West Coast as we continue to update you on the big story of the day as the Middle East tensions continue to grow. This is the latest from Qatar earlier today with Iran taking strike or trying to at least at to the one U.S. airbase out in Qatar. So we want to continue to bring you the very latest here on Live Now from Fox. Again, bring you these updates here in real time. And we also want to get some analysis as well, talking to experts in related fields about what is next here in the Middle East. And that is why I want to bring in our next guest to help break it all down for us this hour. Please welcome Ed Hussein, a senior fellow with the Council on Foreign Relations. Thanks so much for being here with us, Ed. And first off, if I could just get your reaction to what we saw earlier today in Qatar.
Thank you, Mike, for having me. I appreciate it. I think Qatar is an illustration of the fact that there is a large American base in Al Udeid, and the Iranians feel the need to strike back for face-saving reasons, that they want to be seen to be in a position of having responded to the American-led attack on their nuclear enrichment facilities. So this is two things. One, a face-saving measure for the Iranians, and two, an attempt to say to America and its allies, even in the Gulf region, that the Iranians will not sit back, the Iranian government will not sit back and watch this.
And when we think about the next moves here, I mean, is Iran then hoping, okay, we tried to make a statement here, we hope now that President Trump and the U.S. Do not respond back? Or, I mean, is this something, because it would seem if you didn't have President Trump there, maybe this would all end. But having President Trump now as the president once again, it seems like it could ramp up even more. I mean, what's your feelings?
My honest assessment is that, and this is based on President Trump's previous comments, that when Qasem Soleimani was killed during President Trump's first era in office, the Iranians called the White House and said, we will conduct an operation near an American naval base. Please don't respond, and please ensure that no one is on the move. We just need to do something to show to our people that, look, we can attack an American base. And lo and behold, President Trump understood the messaging, the thinking, the instinct, the theater behind it, and nobody was killed. Similarly, here in Qatar, Al Udeid Air Base is almost a city in its own right. Nobody was killed. I suspect the Americans, especially the White House, were informed of this movement. And if there is no further escalation, this may well be the end of the matter for now. But my fear isn't so much what President Trump will or will not do. I think he's wise enough, considerate enough to understand that this was a requisite move, and America, by all measures, has done what it wanted to do, again, with no loss of American lives, destroying the American nuclear program. My concern is this: is there an internal attempt inside Iran to remove the supreme leader? Does the supreme leader die for other reasons? Are there other intelligence operations led by the Israelis and others that we don't know about inside Iran? Does something happen inside Iran that causes a scenario that forces escalation? But this recent attempt on its own, I don't foresee resulting in any greater escalation.
And Ed, what was your thoughts when we heard, before this weekend, it was the White House position that they did not seek a regime change in Iran, but that all changed by a Truth Social post by President Trump just yesterday. What did you make of that?
I think, Mike, that it was right for President Trump and the American administration in general not to seek regime change in Iran. Given the mistakes of regime change and the disastrous consequences in Iraq, in Syria, in Libya, and in other parts of the Middle East, I don't think President Trump, or for that matter, the MAGA movement, is about regime change in foreign countries. It's up to those individuals and their countries to decide their future. I also think it's dangerous for Iran to have a regime change that's imposed by either America or Israel, for the simple reason that the Iranian composition is Persian, is Arabic, is Baluchi, is Azeri, and you open up an ethnic tinderbox, and it's not in American interest, or I'd argue even in Israeli interests, to want to get involved in a country that is so complicated, so ancient, and so on the border of so many of our allies and so many military and naval bases, that it makes very little sense. It's in our interests and in the Israeli interests to minimize chaos in Iran and to ensure that the Iranian mullahs, the fanatical Islamists, don't have a nuclear weapon. We've ensured that. So I think from our perspective, from a Western and an Israeli perspective, mission accomplished. Let's just scale back. Let them have a few pops at a few military bases. As long as there's no damage done to American lives and American interests, we should be wiser as per American President Trump's conduct so far. He's been very clever, very shrewd, very sharp, no leaks. The execution has been much smoother than the Biden administration's withdrawal from Afghanistan, for example. So let's continue in that spirit.
And do you think, I mean, it just seems like even starting when you look at it from last year's perspective with Iran to now, it seems like they've been exposed even greater, not only for themselves, but internationally as well. Is there any way that they could still come to the table and try to work something out? Or is it just right now, I mean, they're just trying to save face the best that they can?
I think, Mike, the answer is in your question. The key phrase here is save face. Iran is an ancient civilization. Its people have a very strong shame and humiliation culture. They've just been brought to their knees by a nation nearby of only 8 million Jewish people. They are a nation in excess of 19 million people, i.e. the Iranians. And you've had a superpower from across, two oceans has come in and destroyed their most advanced nuclear and uranium enrichment program. This huge humiliation. And the mullahs, despite all of this claptrap about death to America, death to Israel, have not been able to defend their borders. They don't have control over their own skies. I mean, it's a humiliating position to be in. So you just want to respect, you don't kick a man or a woman when they're down, as they say. You want to respect the weaknesses that they have and keep them weak. We don't want to see an Iran that's supported to the point of removing sanctions and therefore re-strengthening, reviving Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, anti-American, anti-Israeli forces in the region. And I think that's what our focus should be, on how do you ensure that the Iranian government in its current form does not regroup and revitalize its assets against American interests and American allies. And I think it's also worth bearing in mind that we don't want to bring our Arab friends and allies, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, in any greater danger. I think lots of people are uncomfortable tonight in that part of the world. We should be able to reassure our allies and our friends that being a comrade of America means that they're safer and not in any way put in any greater danger. And we've done that so far. I think that's the way we ought to continue.
Yeah, all solid points there. And lastly here, before I let you go, what was your take from some of the U.S. media's response and kind of their talking points from what happened over the weekend with the U.S. striking Iran? I mean, it seemed like in some modes there were trying to take the, well, was it a big strike? Was it not a strike? Was it successful? There was a kind of a lot of back and forth, and I only bring this up because of what President Trump put on Truth Social earlier today, talking and really laminating the media for some of their negative ways on reporting of what happened on Saturday. So I just want to get your take on that and what you thought about that.
This is a great question, Mike, and it speaks to a much deeper problem here in America, that rather than support the American president at a time of a military operation, at a time of war, elements of the media want to poke fun at the American operation and want to be seen to be minimizing American successes, and want to believe the narrative of the enemy, in this case, the Iranian government, and its claims that sufficient damage has not been done. It tells us something about the moral compass of some journalists who would much rather believe America's enemies than believe America's allies and the American president and the American intelligence assessment. And those three indicators, i.e. Americans, intelligence agencies, America's president and America's allies, have confirmed that significant damage was done. The targets were chosen very carefully, and the nuclear facilities are no longer as strong as they were 3 days or a week ago. Now, that is success, and that success should be celebrated, and American military officials should be saluted. And no lives have been lost, and Iranians and the Iranian interests in the region have been weakened. And I think journalists have a moral duty to recognize that we've averted A, nuclear war, and B, American lives have been saved, and C, our allies and friends in the region, Arabs and Israelis, feel safer, and D, our enemies, i.e. the Iranians, Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, feel weaker. That should be the narrative, rather than navel gazing and saying, President Trump's operations somehow have not achieved what they sought out to achieve.
Oh, yeah, all great points there, Ed. I want to keep you on, though, right now. We are getting some breaking news. President Trump putting on Truth Social an update here. So I want to read this out to everybody, and you stay on here, and we'll have your remarks at the back end of this. But just being put out right now, President Trump on his Truth Social saying, Iran has officially responded to our obliteration of their nuclear facilities with a very weak response, which we expected, and have very effectively countered. There have been 14 missiles fired, 13 were knocked down, and 1 was set free because it was headed in a non-threatening direction. I am pleased to report that no Americans were harmed and hardly any damage was done. Most importantly, they've gotten it all out of their system, and there will hopefully be no further hate. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. Perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region, and I will enthusiastically encourage Israel to do the same. Thank you for your attention to this matter there. So that is the big news there coming, and pretty much what you were saying there, Ed, earlier, that they did get the advance notice, and that they were just, he feels that they were just trying to make a statement to save face.
Yes, I mean, it's exactly, Mike, as you say, we were just discussing this seconds ago, and that is the Iranian approach to President Trump's America, one of respect, one of dignity, and one of fear because of the unpredictability of President Trump. But don't you just like those tweets when they're ending with "Thank you for your attention to this matter"? There's an interesting language there. But I think the key point is
that's a Iranians sign up, I think, Ed.
Yeah, there's something about it that's really endearing. Thank you for your attention to this matter. It's very businesslike. It's very, very precise. But I think the real line there is the Iranians alerted the Trump White House to this oncoming attack on Al Udeid airbase. No lives were lost. The Iranians can pump up propaganda inside the country and say, look, we attacked an American airbase. It seems as though now they're ready to de-escalate if they've been in touch with the Trump administration. And it seems as though, from what you've just read, President Trump is now saying to the Israelis and to Bibi Netanyahu, it's time to now de-escalate, bring the war down, and the Iranians want to talk. The Iranians want to engage. Be that via Turkey, be that via the Europeans, or be it directly, we will see in the coming days. But as things stand now, Mike, God forbid that there should be any unexpected developments, or the Iranian Supreme Leader dying, or an internal matter in Iran that we can't foresee. It looks, for the moment, we're reaching a place of sanity, and let's be open about this. American victory.
Yeah, very, very true. And yeah, I mean, it seems at this moment that everything, the tensions, even when I just read that through, that it seemed like it was lowered to such a way. Now, okay, so it seems like if the U.S. and Iran are somehow on the same page, does that automatically mean that Israel will too? Or will they have their own agenda still and want to maybe pursue?
My fear is that Israel has huge numbers of operatives inside the country. My fear is that there's a rogue operation of some sort against the supreme leader. My fear is that there are components inside Iran that think that the government is now so weak, it's time for a revolution of some sort. My fear is that there are elements that inside the IRGC or elsewhere that just feel so humiliated that any surrender from the top guns inside Iran does not cater to their sense of loss in Israel, in Palestine, in Yemen, in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon. I mean, they've lost on every front. How do you reconcile that loss, that humiliation, that shame in a country, in a culture that develops on the basis of emotion? So I want to believe President Trump, and I want to believe that we now de-escalate, and that should be the normal course of affairs. But we should not discount or disregard the possibility of a rogue operation in the coming days, weeks, and therefore, it's you've got to thank God that someone like President Trump is in the White House that can look at the situation and know his priorities, know his friends from his enemies, and then realize that no amount of attempts to derail where we are now, a sense of calm, a sense of peace, a sense of balance, should force any greater American action.
Well, Ed, it was great to have you on. Thanks so much for your insight and analysis. Also, great to have you on during that breaking news with President Trump's statement and live reaction.
Mike, thank you.
Yeah, thank
Great
you
to talk
so
with
much.
you, Mike. Thank you.
You have a great one, and we will talk soon. All right, everyone. We'll take another 2-minute break. Stay right here with us. More to come on Live Now from Fox. All right, everyone, welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Mike Page. Thanks again for being with us here. Very, very fast-moving hour right now as we take you out to the White House, where President Trump has just made some big announcements via his Truth Social that I want to bring to your attention right now. So this is a series of truths that he did put out saying that regarding the attack today at the American base in Qatar, I am pleased to report that in addition to no Americans being killed or wounded, very importantly, there have also been no Qataris killed or wounded. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay, so he puts there out there thanking Qatar as well. But then look at this one. This is the one that is making big news right now, as he says, Iran has officially responded to our obliteration of their nuclear facilities with a very weak response, which we expected, and we have very effectively countered. There have been 14 missiles fired, 13 were knocked down, and 1 was set free because it was headed in a non-threatening direction. I am pleased to report that no Americans were harmed and hardly any damage was done. Most importantly, they've gotten it all out of their system, and there will hopefully be no further hate. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. Perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region, and I will enthusiastically encourage Israel to do the same. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And then he signs it there at the bottom. And then he says this one, congratulations, world. It's time for peace there. So President Trump wanting to take maybe a victory lap right now in what hopes that there will be these de-escalation efforts that we have seen from his post. He's hoping that Israel is going to want to do the same in the region as well. So some big news that was made there. We know that President Trump was in the Situation Room earlier today with his National Security Council and other members of the top brass of the Pentagon to continue to get updates, and they were monitoring it all in real time when this attack was happening at the U.S. Airbase in Iran. So we'll continue to follow those developments for you and so much more on Live Now from Fox. Do want to take another 2-minute break. We'll be back with much more top stories from around the country and around the world.